Coach, how are we doing? So, today we're going to be talking about the second part of this video series. If you haven't seen the first one, I highly suggest you go back and check it out. There's some really, really cool stuff about essentially the systems of a 30K per month coaching business. We went through three of them on the first one. It's quite a hefty one, but we go through some really core principles to learn to help you grow and scale your business without a team. And then we go through, I think it's three different systems. It was three different systems. And we actually have a bunch of like templates and things that you can steal in there as well. So highly suggest go back, checking that video. I'll have it linked somewhere here when you're watching this one. But for now, let's check out the second part. And this is probably part two of, I don't know, five, six, however many it ends up being. Now, this one, I'm going to try to keep it super short and actionable, because the action that you take off this, it's going to be highly impactful, but it's also going to take you a little bit of thought to get set up. But once you do, it will be a game changer in your business. And I don't use that word game changer lightly. This is like, without a doubt, the biggest unlock for time, results, and just overall headspace for coaches. And yeah, we're going to be looking at the backend systems that let coaches manage 100 clients without a team. This is my client Les, and at the time of recording this, when I screenshotted this, he had 84 clients inside his roster this morning, and he still has room for more. So we're going to be talking about one system, and that is going to be the smart check-in system. So I'm going to show you basically what it is, why it's so good, and how we can actually install it into a coaching business. So the way we have this set up is, I'm going to give you the theory, why I think you should actually set this up. I'm going to show you kind of how it works, and then give you an action step to go off and get it set up for yourself and actually start using it in your business. So the smart check-in system, after you learn how to use this, you're never going to look at the check-ins the same way again. So what is the problem with the traditional 20-minute Loom check-in? And if before I hear you fucking going at me saying, oh, I need to give all the details to my clients, they love watching, seeing all the metrics. No, they fucking don't. Just wait a minute and hear me out on this. So the core problem with this, there's two things. The first one is the time to feedback. Let's change the scenario here away from check-ins and coaching. If you have a problem, regardless of what it is it better to be able to reach out to somebody and get immediate help on it and get that problem solved? Or is it better to wait until a further time where we can just then tell them what the problem is and then wait for them to reply to us with the response? Ideally, we want the response faster. And I want you to kind of open your mind about the check-ins, where it's not just a once a week thing anymore. This is like a continuous kind of check-in process that happens with the clients. But the actual weekly check-in, if you're still doing it that form style, it's just a pit stop. It's just a kind of gauge to see where exactly are we right now, and how can we kind of steer you more in the right direction to help you out. So the first thing is the time to feedback. If we do the traditional check-in process, we're taking a full week to get feedback to a client, and then we're waiting, and then a full week again, waiting, full week again. I know it's like it's the reset in their direction, but we can do a lot better than that. The second thing is, when you're sending this fucking check-in Loom like this and you have all the stats in front of you, yes, you are giving your client some amazing details, some amazing insights into what's working, what's not working, and everything like that. But are you meeting them where they're at? If they're filling in all the details and they have 25 questions that they fill in on a form every single week, if you've been the coaching client yourself, you know that it can get a little bit tedious. And then after a while, you'll find that your clients will start to give less than useful answers. You're like, how's your nutrition? They say, fine. You're like, oh, fucking great. That makes absolutely zero help for me. So with this, are we meeting them where they're at? And that's super important. And that's where this whole kind of system comes from. It's like, right, giving them the actual support that they need, and are we meeting them at where they're at with the right questions? So let's go through a little test. So if you were having a conversation with somebody, a client, and you asked them, how has your week been? And they said, not great, been completely off track with my food, didn't train that much this week as the kids were off school, and you had to go out for a work dinner on Wednesday evening, need a little bit of help kind of navigating that kind of stuff. Would you then reply to them saying, what's your biggest win of this week? Or whatever it is that you have in this static form, and really that's only to go put on your Instagram story? No. we wouldn't reply like that. What we would do is we would think, right, what is the next logical question? If they said, oh, I didn't get any training sessions done. Kids were off school. I was completely off track with my nutrition. You're like, right, well, what of this could we have actually controlled that still would have moved us towards our goals? And then you might start to go down that route. Then you'll ask them some questions around that. And then you'll go into another group and you'll ask them some questions about that. That's the way that we have to think about what will be the next logical question. And then once we do that, we're able to set up this kind of dynamic, kind of evolving form for when they go through there. So they could go in here, they ask them a question, how's this week? And they say, fucked, it was terrible. And you're like, all right, cool, no problem. Why was it terrible? And then they say, their training was really bad. Okay, but why was the training really bad? Like, how many sessions did you get done? They say none of them. You're like, what got in the way? But if they say they got all the sessions done, you're like, okay, what do we feel needs to change about the training? Do we feel like we need a bit more intent with it? Like, what is it? Is it the programming? Like, we're able to think what is the next logical question that we would ask. And then by doing that, we're able to have all these different routes that they could possibly go down. So the check-in is dynamic to the situation that they're going through. And don't worry, I'm going to show you how to set this up. So by doing this, we're able to meet them where they're at. If they're having a great week, we're able to build off that and not focus on, what are you struggling with? If they're actually having a bad week, we're not being like, right, what's our wins? We're like, right, what's going on? How can I help you? How can we get around this? If they're having like an okay week, we can be a bit more diagnostic, being like, right, well, steps, training, nutrition, what's going on? Rate them. If it's a low rating, why? If it's a high rating, great. How can we build off this? And it can be more dynamic. And then you can offer the right support for the right person. But then when it comes to completing the check-ins, which you normally spend 20 minutes reading through all the same data every single week, this time you're just answering what is most relevant to the person. You're not having to skim through all the data and make a judgment call on what's going on. You're only giving the most related information to that client. So let's figure out how this actually works. So this is done on Typeform, and I'm going to just do a bit of drawing before I go into Typeform and actually build on with you. Let me just make sure that I'm recording the screen here on the tablet, and then we will do a bit of drawing. So what we want to do is, with our check-in process, we have the start. And then once they go in there, we just have to think, right, what is the first question that we would like to ask them? It might be something about like rate your week in like, red, amber, green. I generally use that a lot with my clients. And then if they answer red, we're going to say, you're going over here. If they answer amber, you're going here. And if they answer green, you're going over here. And now we can start to think of, right, if they said that they were having a green week, what would I possibly want to ask them? So it might be some stuff about wins. If they're having an okay week, you might want to ask like, right, why? Why is it an okay week? Why is it not a great week? Why is it not a terrible week? And if they're having a terrible week, we're going to say, why? Like, what's going on? And then after we find out why, we're going to go into like, right, maybe we're in amber week, we might go into like diagnostics. So we might ask some stuff about training. And then we might have that as like a 1 to 10 slider. If they answer a really high rating on the training, we might ask them something about nutrition. We might just skip straight to there. If they answer a really low rating with the training, however, we might want to answer like a little follow-up to be like, right, why was it so low? And then from there, that one will continue on to here. And then we use that same logic going throughout the quiz. And then by the time that you have figured it all out, you'll have all these different areas and routes that they could possibly go down. Now, that is the first step. So actually like pen and paper and just kind of draw it out, like feel like a bit of a mad scientist as you're doing this. And like, we could link up here or there. Like, don't worry about how it's actually going to work. The way that we just have to think, and core rules of this, is we can do it by multiple choice ones where, we have here, here, here. So depending on which one they click, they can go down, or we can have it based on numbers. So if it's above a certain number, if it's below a certain number, we can get it to like go down different routes. Or we could have multiple bits of logic where it says like, if it's this and this, and then we can put it down a different route. So think numbers, think multiple choice. That's what we want to do for logic. We can use some AI to clarify, but I generally don't like to let AI make the decisions on it. I just feel it's not going to have the same brain as you. It won't really be able to be trained well enough to make decisions on it. So where it's very quantifiable, where we can say like you're either A, B, or C, or you're either 1 to 5, where exactly are we? And it can have multiple areas of logic. So go through, write down all your questions like that, figure out where exactly you want it to kind of end up with the different question routes. And then you can also add in stuff like if they're red, like do we jump straight to a call? Do we just get them booked in for a call and just solve it in 10 minutes? Up to you. Now, actually putting this in practice, let's actually build it now. So the way this is set up, this is using Typeform. So let's take a quick crash course in building out logic in Typeform. I have some longer videos on this of actually building out ones. I'm not going to build out this entire thing in front of you now because it would just waste your time. I want you to go you do this and just understand how to build it, and then you can work away. So in Typeform, this is the actual one here. So if we go to content, we can see that we have a bunch of different questions and question groups. So I'm just going to start one from scratch right now, and I'll show you the basics, and then from there, you'll be good to go. So let me just create a new form here. Okay, don't use AI. It's terrible at the moment. So first thing, at a welcome screen, we want to make sure that we say, right, start your check-in. After the welcome screen, the first thing that we want to do is just capture the information. Who is the person? So we might just want first name, last name, email address. We don't need the company. So we'll say something like, who's checking in? Something like that. Doesn't have to be fancy. The next part, this could be our first bit of logic. So you're going to say, I'm going to use a multiple choice or a 1 to 10. So multiple choice, you'll say, hey, and we might reference their first name maybe. So at to reference their first name. How was the week? Okay, and then you'll say something like, great. Okay. Completely fucked it. All right. And then depending on which one of these they select, we then want to send them down one of the different routes that we had just planned earlier. So to keep it clean and kind of easy to see when we're going through here, we'll use question groups. So you can click here and you'll see here we have question groups. It's basically, it just starts off with a little statement, saying like, glad to hear you're in the green. Let's go. Something like that. And then you can start to put in your green questions. Now, just like I was saying, we have multiple choice or numbers that we can do. So we'll pretend that this first one is going to be a number scale. And then after I'll just show you how the actual logic works. So we'll add in, let's say it could do ratings as well. It could be numbers, or it could be the opinion scale. They are in here. So we'll do like a 1 to 10 or a 0 to 10. So just say nutrition. And then what I'm going to do is I'll just put in another question here, which is why. And then I'll just put in another question after this, which is like training. Just so we can see. All right. And then, all right. So the way that logic works inside here is you have like quiz style logic and you have branching logic. Branching logic is what you're going to be using. So depending on when you set up your Typeform account, it might look slightly different inside here, but you can go to workflow and you can either like try to link them where you can like link the logic together, or if you just click here on branching, you'll have like the kind of drop down where we can set the rules. You can do it like per question as well, depending on when you set it up, or you could do it all just as one go. What we'll do is we'll do it as per question. So the first bit of logic we need is, hey, if this person says that it was great, we're going to put them to question group number 3. If it was terrible, 4 or 5, and you can choose where it goes. So all you have to do is you say add a rule. So the rule is if this is great, go to, and we said we want to send them to here. And then you could add another rule to say if they said it was okay, send them to somewhere else, or you could have it where it says all other cases go to here. And then you click save. So you see that we now have this line attaching and it shows you where they will go. Then inside here, we'll say, right, if the nutrition is lower or equal to, let's say, a 5, you're going to ask them why. All other cases, we're going to skip forward to training, click save, and that's it. And you just keep repeating that. It's like it is that simple. And then you just have to make sure that like you have them linked up to endings so that like it's fully going through. And then from there you could have different endings depending on like what they are. So if it's green, it could be, hey, go check out your check-in as soon as possible, here's to another green week. If they're amber, it's like, hey, I'll be in contact as soon as possible. If it's red, it's like, hey, I'll be in contact within the next 24 hours to get you sorted. Or you could have another one for if they need a call. It's all just like that. There's really nothing to it. You just have to follow through, set up all the steps, and then from there you just share the link to your clients. So when they're completing it, let me just publish it here. They won't actually see the logic on their side. They will just see a form that they're completing. So if I click start, I know I have like nothing on this, but we'll say here. So say, hey, Aaron, we're going to say green. It's going to ask me then, how's my nutrition? If I say that it was 6, it's going to move me to training. If I go back and I say it was 5 or below, it's going to go ask me why. And then that'll bring me onto the training. And that's it. It's really that simple. Go set it up, take the time, plan it out on the pen and paper or tablet. Just figure out what questions you want to ask and what scenarios. And then from there, the next time you're doing your check-ins, it is going to be a massive difference. If you have any questions, pop it over to me. And then this is probably something you'd be interested in if you're watching this video anyway. Inside the school community, there's setting up like your onboarding to be automated. There's the $3,000 contract automations. Make sure that you have a proper contract in place and make sure it automatically sends out to clients or signing. We have ManyChat automations, like literally a massive guide to ManyChat. We have how to generate personalized automated lead magnets. And then we actually have a tool then here as well, which will help you basically audit your entire business systems and see where you need to put more focus on to make it more systemized and streamlined. And that's it. If you have any questions, let me know. There'll be a link to join the school just below the video here. And if you haven't watched part 1 yet, go back and watch part 1. It will be really, really useful if you find this useful.